Hey there, Toonami faithful, and welcome back aboard Toonami Absolution, where we talk about the shows that made us us and the shows that made you you. Once again, we are your hosts. My name is Alex.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John. Spirited Away. This was your choice, Sam.
It was. A lot of the stuff we've picked so far, be it movies or shows that we've dissected, have been pretty early days Toonami. And in the case of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, proto Toonami. Um, I wanted to do something like a little later. About a year into its life cycle or a decade into its life cycle, Toonami did a month of Miyazaki, where they picked four Miyazaki movies at the time, and just had special presentations of it throughout that month. And one of the ones that, certainly one of my favorites, and certainly one of the ones that was part of that four was Spirited Away, 2001 Spirited Away. I There's a couple reasons why I wanted to pick this, even though I think I prefer Princess Mononoke, which was also part of the month of Miyazaki. Spirited Away is kind of my gateway into Studio Ghibli in a lot of ways. It's also, I think, the image of Sen or Chihiro, whatever we're calling her in this one, is and No Face is as iconic as the image of the Totoro for Ghibli's kind of ubiquity. Um, Won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. I think it sets a high bar that Miyazaki has never surpassed since. I think it sets a bar. You could even make the argument Studio Ghibli as a whole hasn't surpassed since. Um, all due respect to When Marnie Was Here and The Wind Rises fans, which are both great films as well. I say this saying that I love all those movies too, but I
No
think
love for the
Spirited
boy and
Away.
the heron.
So, so I think, Spirited Away sets a bar that hasn't quite been matched since. And so yeah, I want of the four that were selected, the other two being Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky. I think Spirited Away for me was the one that stood out the most.
Yeah, just some context. This was shown in 2006. This was celebrating Miyazaki's 65th birthday. It was also basically celebrating a year of Toonami being in the Saturday slot now, rather than it being the weeknight block it was. That meant that they could do more movie presentations because Saturday night was always when most networks would dump movies. It was the time where the family would be together and have a couple of hours free. Uh, Slightly weird this because it is a Disney film. Disney owned the international rights to this film, and also this wasn't its TV debut. TCM had done this exact same block with nearly the exact same film 2 months before, which is why this kind of gets overlooked, I think, this whole month of Miyazaki, because basically Disney at this point were giving these films out to any network they wanted to show them. So Toonami wasn't really ahead of the curve here.
Well, TCM also Warner Brothers channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you guys' memories of Spirited Away?
Oh gosh. Spirited Away is one of those movies that I have a hard time talking about sometimes because of just how much of an experience it really is, especially that first time watching it. When I it's one of those movies that I don't even need people to like have a background information on anime or to be interested in anime to show them. Be like, no, this is just a legitimately good film. And I think because when the movie came out in America, I was a teenager and I was still like, doing my teenager thing. And it's one of those movies that like genuinely like kind of touched my heart in a way that a lot of things weren't in my proto Hot Topic era. So it's a hard one to talk about for me because of that. Like it's so good that it's hard to talk about. You know what I mean?
It's
Yeah,
one of those films you can hype it up for days, and I still don't think it covers just how fantastic. This is a lightning in a bottle film. I think it is these artists at the exact right time with the exact right inspirations. You can't. I think one of the things is you can't make Spirited Away again.
No.
Even if you try, you cannot make it again. It's just this very specific circumstance that gave rise to something that was very different from what came before, but also built on what came before. It's such a perfect film. Like, I think this is one of the things for us a podcast. We can't really say if you haven't seen it, you have seen it. Let's be honest. You've seen Spirited Away. If not, I'm surprised you're even here, kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Rectify that right now if you haven't seen Spirited Away, because we're gonna talk a lot about
And
this movie. I mean, yeah, it's when it was finally released in North America, I was like probably around 15 at the time. But my sister, my younger sister, was like the perfect age for it, and it was her through her that I really, because I didn't watch like Totoro or Porco Rosso or Princess Mononoke growing up. That came later. This was like through my sister. It was like because she was obsessed with this movie when it came out. It wasn't Kiki's Delivery Service that came later for me in terms
Oh.
of when I got introduced to Miyazaki. Was this either of yours first Miyazaki, or was there Miyazaki? Was there a pre-Spirited Away Miyazaki for you?
Kiki was my first Miyazaki.
I think this may have been
Kiki's
my.
Delivery Service.
I think this may have been my first, but I saw quite a few of them very close together. So I
Oh,
think it
you
was a
did.
case of I got the one tape, then just got the rest of them. And
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
This opened the floodgates for me, really.
oh, and we should probably talk about why that was, because the Oscar win was such an important thing. This one, 2003, it won the Best Animated Feature Film. It beat Ice Age, Lilo and Stitch, Spirit Stallion of Cimarron. It must have been a slow year, and Treasure Planet. It definitely was a slow year. Um,
Whoa, whoa!
Whoa,
A
whoa,
Treasure
whoa,
Planet catching
whoa.
Treasure
strays.
Planet is good, but the fact it even got for a B level Disney film to get nominated is so unusual. The fact
Well, and
even
it
Disney
bombed
didn't
at
have,
yeah,
yeah,
it
It
bombed
did
at box
box.
office pretty hard.
Disney had no faith in it. The fact it's fighting Spirit makes you go, probably a slow year. It was like Spirit and Ice. The fact Ice Age got nominated is, I guess, CG in the early 2000s. But yeah, that
Yeah.
if you want sort of an example of how different anime is today, so this is a fact that always blows my mind. So this film was made on a budget of 1.9 billion yen, which is about $50 million.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But okay, so when it was released in America in cinemas, Disney didn't promote it at all. They were worried it was going to flop. It was pretty much contractual, and the fact John Lasseter, who was worked at Pixar, loved Studio Ghibli. So basically, Lasseter was just constantly fighting for this film. One of the only good things he ever did, to be fair to the man. He's not great to work with apparently, but he did well here.
Yeah.
So when they opened it, its opening weekend, it made $450,000 from 26 cinemas. 26 all out house. So for context, Dragon Ball Super Superhero opened in 3,130 theaters.
Yeah.
And Joe, earlier this year, when they did the Dragon Ball Daima preview of the dub,
I
that
remember.
opened in over 1,000 cinemas.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
26 theaters is basically our contract says we have to release you in cinemas. What's the smallest and least we can do and get past the contractual? This film bombed until it had that Oscar win. And it was then on TV, and everyone's like, oh, we want to see this film. So the home media release in 2003 did so well. It was just a massive seller. It was hard to get for many months because it was just going off the shelves. Blockbuster couldn't keep it in. Like, if it hadn't had that Oscar win, just I don't think the media landscape would be the same now. It's like such as those few judges changed the history of film without really knowing it.
I mean, you can also make an argument too that they kind of changed the media zeitgeist in the West going forward from there. Like I remember being 12 in 2003 and being one of like two kids in my grade that knew what anime was at all. Like I like my best friend of 23 years now, we became friends because we were the only two girls in Girl Scouts because that liked Yu Yu Hakusho. Like when but now as an educator who works with young people, anime is such a cultural touchstone for so many of them. Like they know this stuff. They've watched Spirited. My kids haven't seen like classic American films, but they've seen Spirited Away.
Yeah.
And I that is a major thing to really think about. Like the soft power Japan has in the West is insane.
I think when it comes to Japanese cinema, not even just animated cinema, but when I think it comes to Japanese cinema making headway in the United States, I think they both happen to be animated movies. It's Akira in the 80s and it's Spirited Away in the early 2000s.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and you even look at how different they were. Akira was a film you were buying via mail order most of the time.
Yeah.
Akira was sold via late night infomercial on VHS in America. There are some hilarious commercials for it that are desperately grappling with my favorite one, and it's like this isn't your daddy's cartoons. Like
Yeah.
they had no idea how to market this thing. All they had was this isn't Mickey Mouse. And then Spirited Away was one of the first that could have got sold on its own merits. It was like, hey, this is a children's fantasy film It's not special because it's Japanese. It's just very, very good.
Yeah.
You will like it because it is a good film. I think which always thing I always want to bring up is when Pokemon, the first movie, came out, there were actual news articles from mainstream press, not like right wing weirdos online, publishing things like what is Japanese animation and should parents be worried about it?
Yeah.
It was treated as almost like you could see it becoming the D&D satanic panic of the 90s. Like, should the Japanese be teaching our children these things was a big thing. And this was New York Times, this was big media outlets.
I remember seeing those articles about Dragon Ball Z, calling it too
Yeah.
violent for kids, you know. But Spirited Away, what's the most traumatic thing that happens? The no face eating the workers.
They get
Uh,
better.
yeah, they do. They do. They eventually get regurgitated, sure. Is
And
it the parents getting turned into pigs and almost slaughtered? You know, it's a fairy tale. It's a Japanese fairy tale that uses a lot of Japanese yokai to kind of but it at the same time it transcends borders and cultural distinction, which, it's and I was making this joke earlier, but it's true. Spirited Away is isekai. It's an isekai story.
Yeah.
it's very much in the classic Wizard of Oz format.
Yeah.
The first isekai, arguably. It there's something about Spirited Away that I feel like very few other movies capture, where what it does is it creates such immersion for you. Like when you watching, there are so many movies that, I've gone to a lot of anime movie premieres. I've been to a lot of anime movie theaters. People are usually screaming and shouting and very excited. Spirited Away is one of the few movies I can think of that when I saw it in theaters or even when I watched it as an adult, everybody is dead silent.
Yeah.
Like you are paying attention to that movie.
I think
Do you get
part of
that
it
vibe
is
from other Miyazaki? Do you guys get that kind of like solemnity when it comes to other Miyazaki?
I think so.
I
I get it from Totoro and quite a few of the other ones.
I think the main one, the only really main one I get that from equally would be Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't recommend
which
that one.
okay, that I can watch that movie once every 10 years. I
Yeah,
got that. Every decade I
yeah.
can watch that movie and then I'm good. But
One,
like
once a year.
once a oh wow, okay.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Just when my mood gets a little bit too high.
Oh,
Gotta
sure.
bring it
I'm sure
back
I've
down.
joked about this, but last year, because of a project, I ended up having to watch Grave of the Fireflies 4 times in about 3 days,
Oh.
and I have never felt worse. Which is a credit to the film. The fact that I've seen that many times, I can still come out of it with just a pit in my stomach, going, "Well, is impressive. Very few
That's one.
films can do that."
Yeah,
You
it's
ever
one of
want to
those
watch
movies.
two children slowly die for two
Yeah.
hours?
It's one of those movies where you don't want to do anything afterwards. You're just like, I'm good. I'm just gonna go home and crawl into a ball. I'm not gonna have anything on, no music, maybe not even lights. I'm just gonna like beat us up for a while.
As opposed to Spirited Away, which actually kind of is more life affirming.
Yes, 100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Good,
Good
good
name
double
back.
feature. You start with Grave of the Fireflies and you go to Spirited
No,
Away.
no, you do it the other way around. You get to the top and then you come all the way down.
Oh,
It's
that's
like
the best. Yeah.
Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
God.
But I mean,
Um,
let's talk about some of those themes. Or and John, unless you had something else
Well, I was
juicy
going
to.
to point out one thing I really think it sort of immerses you is how well it balances realism with fantastical.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about the bathhouse is it has a layout you can kind of memorize. Chihiro sort of follows the same path a lot, and everything seems to have a place. You can imagine people living in there when the camera isn't on them.
Yeah.
Like there's the bedroom where you see all these people are, and you see how the baths are laid out and how the pipes work. There's a lot of like very technical details. For me, the ultimate Spirited Away thing is the fact that they have the token system for the soaks. That is such a small detail, but it makes the world feel so much more lived in. Because it's not just like, oh, we use these soaks. Is that we have a system. We have built this system over many years because this is a place that exists beyond the camera.
Yeah, I mean, we even get to see how the bathhouse, what's the name of this old man spider person?
Oh,
Oh,
I've forgotten it. Oh no, there goes my
It's like,
credibility.
yeah.
but
Clearly, as the person that chose this movie, I don't know his name right off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's everybody has a function in this bathhouse, including old man spider
Oh,
person
Kamji.
Kanji.
I like Old Man Spider Person. I want that on my business cards going forward.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
I will wash you.
I will wash you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, but in terms of some, Alex was bringing out the idea that this is a life-affirming film. I mean, let's talk about some of the themes that we have going on here. So I guess for people that need the refresher, so Chihiro and her family move to a new town and she crosses she finds this mythical bathhouse and crosses a river that at the time is dried up, but then she loses her way home and her parents get turned into pigs, and she finds herself forfeiting her name to work at this bathhouse while trying to remember everything and get her identity, her parents, and by extension, her identity back. And it's an affirming and empowering story in that regard as she works with these different yokai and Yubaba, the evil witch running the whole thing. Like, I mean, that's as fairy tale as it gets, right? John was making the Wizard of Oz comparison earlier, and I mean, there's certain similarities there too. It really is the kind of like the isekai prototype without all the cool action, and so to speak.
And without all the weirdness.
I mean, the thing I always appreciated about Spirited Away, especially as I got older, is that it feels a lot like an epic poem. It
Hmm.
has, it feels like the Odyssey in a lot of ways. It has that very like John Campbell hero's journey energy to it without it having to be Star Wars. And I can appreciate the actual mastery of the craft that goes into that. Like you don't just wake up and make something like Spirited Away one day, you know? Like this takes real artistry.
100%. I mean, John, in terms of like the big story beats, like what's the stuff that sticks out for you?
Well, I should bring up what I really like is one of my favorite things about this movie is how it handles Chihiro. She is a very relatable young girl who is very specifically 10. She is she doesn't have to change to become the victor in this fight. She basically just has to keep working on herself. And this is, if I may bring a second, a interview with Miyazaki from Anime Magazine 2001 about the making of the film. I think just really sums this up nicely. This is quite a long quote, but I'll give it. This movie is a story about a 10-year-old whose father and mother happen to eat something they shouldn't have and become pigs. The movie appears to be satire, but that isn't my purpose. I have 5 young female friends who are about the same age as Higiri-san, who is Chihiro's Japanese voice actress.
Yeah.
And I spend every summer with them at my mountain cabin. I want to make a movie they could enjoy. That's why I started the film. That is my true purpose. We have made Toro, which was for small children, Laputa, which a boy sets out on a journey, and Kiki's Delivery Service, in which a teenager lives by herself. We have not made a film for 10-year-old girls who are at the first stage of their adolescence. So I read the Sojo manga such as Nakoshi or Ribbon, which they left at the mountainside cabin. I felt that this country only offered such things as crushes and romance to 10-year-old girls. Though, looking at my young friends, I felt this was not what they held dear in their hearts, not what they wanted. And so I wondered if I could make a movie in which they could be heroines. If they find this movie to be exciting, it will be a success in my mind. They can't lie. Until now, I've made I Wish There Was Such a Person leading characters. This time, however, I created a heroine who is an ordinary girl, someone with who the audience can sympathize, someone about who they can say, yes, it's like that. It's very important to make her plain and unexaggerated. Starting with that, it's not a story in which characters grow up, but a story in which they draw on something already inside, brought on by particular circumstances.
Yeah.
And
There's
that is
yeah.
so, he's right. He's very right.
There's two takeaways I have from it. First, Miyazaki invites women to his mountain cabin on a regular basis.
They
Young girls.
Yeah.
to clarify, this is a Animage's translation. It is if you read starting over his book. They
Yeah.
are the daughters of his family, close family members. So it's not
Cool.
that Animage just really ruined that translation a little bit. It's they go to a family vacation every year in the mountains, which isn't that uncommon in Japan, to be fair.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll check. You're in the clear.
He's
Hayao.
safe. Grumpy but safe.
No one's
Yeah.
getting canceled today.
Yeah. Second off, I mean, yeah, if you think about it, with Chihiro's like journey with Haku and everything, it isn't. It was never a love story. There's no. I mean, he's just a boy that she befriends, and like I was saying about like reclaiming her name. I mean, it makes perfect sense now with that in sense that she's coming of age and reclaiming her identity as she's, Would you call it an end of innocence? Would you go as far to call it an end of innocence story, or is that innocence still there?
I think you could make that claim, but she doesn't lose her innocence, but she's definitely sort of becoming more aware of the world and more aware of other people. There is definitely that sort of her looking outside herself quite a bit.
I think the mention of her being 10 is super important, especially going back to that quote talk with Miyazaki talking about how so many things are targeted at romance and crushes at that age. Having once been a 10-year-old girl, shockingly, um, it's it's a very weird transitionary time for a lot of young girls, and a lot of that comes from the fact that no matter where you are in the world, uh 10 the ages of like 10 to 13 are where most young girls start puberty.
Hmm.
And it's also right around that time where your identity as yourself starts to get very wrapped up in your gender, especially for young girls. And because the expectations start to change once you get that first period, your life has changed irrevocably. And there is a lot, I don't want to say a loss of identity. There's a change of identity that comes with that. And sometimes culturally that comes with a loss of identity. I like that this is not, it's not making something fearful out of being a young girl, because so much of being a young girl is terrifying. And I like that about this movie. It speaks to something in me as a grown woman, and it spoke to something in me as a younger girl too. That there is still joy to be had despite how scary the that awareness becomes.
I think it's also important to build on that point. And note, two of the major characters in this film are older women. They are presented as the traditional hag, but Yubaba still has her passions. Her sister is an important heroine and lives a happy life. You see a lot of women in this film. They have very varied bodies and very different outlooks. How they treat each other and how they treat Chihiro is very wide. They're not like, we don't have the one evil hag witch. Even Yubaba, she's evil, but she has this very specific moral set. She's shown to care about her child. She's shown to care about her customers. She's not just the evil witch we drop a house on and leave. I think that's a very important thing to have as a young girl. Like, hey, you're getting older, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing.
What do you think No Face kind of brings to the other than something that literally has to be sated over the course of the story?
No Face is an interesting character. I think you can read a lot into him. I always kind of sort of see it a bit as self doubt,
Hmm.
in that it can't have its own voice until it takes someone else's. It obsesses and tries to buy itself friends effectively, but does end up showing that it has, when it lets itself be itself at the end, it gets what it wants effectively. It gets to stay in the cabin. It says, oh, it can weave. I think there's a self doubt argument there, which I quite like.
I I just to build on that point and to kind of tie up this little girl message in a neat little bow, that is very indicative of that time period for young girls, that not having your own voice and doing that sort of thing, because in in the realm of early childhood development, the ages between 7 and 10 are so important for the development of our social hierarchies. And young girls develop those social hierarchies based a lot on their socialization. And girls are socialized very differently from boys, depending on their families. I was an only child. I got things a little bit differently. But in classical ways of raising, girls often get placed in positions where they are expected to be mirrors of either their mothers or the older women around them, who are held in these much more traditional roles. And that self-doubt piece of it is when you, as a young girl, act outside of those traditional roles. And I can see No Face being a piece of that, because oftentimes when we act outside of what we're boxed into is when we're the happiest. And and it's especially difficult from what I understand for Japanese girls too. Like, not even just talking about Western girls, but Japanese girls, it's a totally different ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 100%. Um, I mean, it was just, I also compared to some Miyazaki movies, like how centralized this is in terms of like its location and everything. This isn't the high-flying Porco Rosso. This isn't, you know, Kiki getting an entire city to play and deliver, to literally deliver things in. Um, this is the bathhouse.
The bathhouse is kind of like Howl's Castle in that it's a character in and of itself. Like it's not just a location, it's also got a personality to it. It kind of breathes on its own, and I think that that adds so much to the film.
Yeah.
It does. It's a really nicely done location. Again, is that it's full of those little details that make it feel very lived in. Like it is such a, I would say, detail thing. When you see the dorm where all the girls are sleeping, they all have different bedding.
Yeah.
That is such a small detail, but it makes this world feel so alive. And just that's even if you don't consciously notice it, you realize, oh, they each have their own bed and it's slightly different. And that's just these are all people. They're all living their own lives. Even though we're not seeing them, they are doing it.
Yeah. And it's like you were saying earlier, John, like the layout to this place makes sense. Like you by the end of the movie, it's like, oh, this she's going into that room, or like this is where this takes place. Like there is a intimacy here that I don't think you necessarily get with a lot of Studio Ghibli films that are on a bit of a grander. When Marty was here, it gets kind of has that going on too, but on a much more mature storytelling level, I think. But there is
Yeah.
like a familiarity and intimacy here with the setting and the story that you don't normally get. For me, like I said, this is the gateway for me into Miyazaki, and it's still a unique and striking film across the entire Studio Ghibli thing. I mean, I don't know if you guys would go as far to agree with me when I say that this bar has not been exceeded yet. I mean, Alex, of course, brought up The Boy and the Heron jokingly, hopefully, maybe.
Jokingly. Jokingly.
I
I
can
like the
see
movie a lot,
I
but
like the movie
I can see the argument. I definitely think it is the one that even if you won't agree it's the best, it definitely defined how they're seen to the point where I think in some ways Spirited Away may slightly be an albatross around the studio's neck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because it does mean they get always compared to it. Oh, poor Earwig.
Yeah, yeah. Or like yeah, Earwig is a big one. I think I remember everyone unfavorably comparing like Ponyo to Spirited
Yeah.
Away. Like, look
Which
how
is so
far.
unfair. Which is
Yeah.
so unfair. Comparing Ponyo to Spirited Away, like that's just not that's not okay. That's like that is genuinely trying to compare like Dr. Seuss books, which are fantastic and great for their age group, to like Anna Karenina. They are not in the same
Oh
category.
man, we're going into okay,
I
okay.
would, yeah, no, I do think that this definitely ranks highly. I mean, even just on legacy, this is the film that I think defines them, and it you can see why. There is a bit of something for everyone in here. It kind of nice that there's a nice bit of comedy, there's some nice physical comedy, some nice wordplay, some some peril but not much, some nice action sequences. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on here.
I mean, I think No Face is one of the most evocative and in some ways funny things that Miyazaki ever created or designed. Just like the him at the table, like, like super happy and like he's got all the food. Like, I'm being genuine when I say like just the image of him and Kiki sitting next together on the tram or whatever, like with the sunlight and everything coming in. That's as evocative and as iconic as an image as you'll find from Studio Ghibli. Um, yeah,
I
it's
I
yeah.
think the other thing I do want to point out about Studio Ghibli in general, but also like in this movie, I feel like a lot of movies, especially in the West, that are targeted at younger audiences are so afraid of letting moments breathe. Like they're so afraid of like if there's not something happening all at once, then we're gonna lose these kids. They're not gonna pay attention. But I think that Spirited Away is so confident in the intelligence of its audience, and its audience is young girls, and it lets a lot of moments just be and breathe and have those quiet moments because it's not talking down to anybody. And I think that that's part of what makes it important.
You actually took a point. I was about to say one of the reason that scene is so cool is because it's so quiet. It is a moment. What my favorite moments in this entire film is when they're on the train and you see that other station and people get off. It's again such a small detail, but it establishes this world is bigger. But it gives you just a moment to sort of sit there and think about where they've come from, and where they're going.
Yeah.
Uh, as reaching the end, some interesting things. One about this film, one about this block. So the month of Miyazaki was controversial because Toonami had to follow Ghibli's no cutting rule. So no changes. Unfortunately, they decided not to run this film with limited commercials, meaning there was a commercial every 20 minutes. This means that the film, which is already 2 hours long, ran from 7:30 to 10:30 at night.
Oh
That
God.
upset a lot of people. Upset a lot of parents because this is a film for young children. They should be able to see it all the way through. And I really want to bring up there's a promo for this. You can see that even Toonami is struggling how to pitch it because they get their voiceover guy to come in and say Chihiro has lost her parents, befriended a demon, and signed her life away to a crazy witch, and that's just the first 20 minutes. One, he's not a demon; he's a spirit. And two, no, she doesn't. It takes at least 30 minutes before she signs her life away. Keep count, Toonami.
Yeah, especially with the commercial breaks.
Yeah, I love it's such a clear we have no idea how to market this to our usual Dragon Ball demographic, so we're gonna try and make it. And they have all the action sequences from late in the film. It's like no, the first hour and a half, it's gonna be very much Chihiro walking around talking to people.
Yeah,
And
setting the stage.
I just want to
Yeah.
bring up one of my favorite little fun facts about this film. If you'll notice at the start when they're driving to the theme park, Chihiro doesn't wear a seatbelt. There is a reason for this. Rear passenger seatbelts didn't become mandatory on Japanese roads until 2008.
Interesting.
That's why you get the whole bit of her saying to stop moping around because she can just do that.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments you look at that now and go, wow, that's surprisingly late.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, being kind of getting to go to Japan and immerse myself in that culture, if you think about it a little more abstractly, it makes sense that they wouldn't
It
mandate
And
seatbelt.
to be fair, airbags did not come standard in cars until around 94.
yeah.
So
Also true. It is
it's
kind of like looking at it because yeah, we all saw the promo. It was, John had unearthed this thing. And it's really indicative of where Toonami is at this time, which is to say, trying to find themselves on the weekend. Like it was part of the reason why I wanted to pick it again because it's later in the life cycle than most of the shows and movies we picked so far. Um, where because Toonami goes off the air for like years, and we're starting to see the downturn here.
yeah.
It's kind of a weird point in its broadcast history.
Yeah, it's becoming at this point, it sort of becomes just another block rather than being its own special thing. You can tell the shine has come off a bit. And that's, again, to be fair, that's evident here because Toonami isn't the ones bringing you this for the first time. TCM has already done it. Disney have already done it on their own channels. They are very much late to the Miyazaki party.
Yeah, but
Are,
we're here for you.
we are.
We're early to the Miyazaki party, slightly too
Are,
early.
are those your final thoughts?
Parties all the time.
Yeah,
My
my
God.
final thought is not to be controversial, but this film is just very, very good. Just go watch it. It's on streaming, it's on DVD.
Yeah.
How about you, Sam? Is that your final one?
I mean, yeah, it's really it. I mean, it's for me, it's the Miyazaki against which all others will be judged. It's not my favorite. Again, that's like Mononoke, which was also part of this programming block. But I knew, like, looking at Month of Miyazaki, it's like if we cover one, it's going to be Spirited Away.
And I love this film. I always have. It may not be my favorite Miyazaki film, which is how not Miyazaki, but yeah, Ghibli film, but it is one of my top 5 favorite films of all time. And if you go to your local Hot Topic, you can buy all of the merchandise from Spirited Away in your local slowly dying mall. But since that is our final destination and it is time to disembark from Toonami Absolution, we want to thank you again for joining us and talking about the shows that made us us and the shows that made you you. Once again, we are your hosts. My name is Alyx.
I'm Sam.
And I'm John.
And we'll see you next time. Bang.